As above, so below. As within, so without. As the universe, so the self. Know thyself. Heaven and hell come from within one's own mind. Life is a mirror. You observe what you reflect. The sciences and technologies shall darken everywhere the hopes of men. All relationships not in a state of agreement shall fall. Those who will not fall are the metahumans of the new golden age of the new earth. And in furtherance of that manifestation, I wish to offer further readings in Deepak Chopra's book, METAHUMAN, and I continue. Let's consider one of the most basic aspects of virtual reality. Hardly anyone would question that being inside the body is normal, natural, and a true experience. But this certainty runs counter to the phenomenon of out-of-body experiences, OBE, which have been documented in every culture for centuries. The most widely publicized out-of-body experience is going into the light, as reported by patients who have clinically died during emergency medical procedures, especially from heart attacks. And that's going into the light. It turns out that expecting to go into the light when we die is misleading, because what happens in near-death experiences is much more individual than anyone thought. The largest study of near-death experiences, which examined 2,060 patients who died under emergency or intensive care, arrived at the conclusion that death isn't a single event. It is a process. There isn't simply one final or definitive event. During this process, there are ways to reverse death. In cases where medical professionals were successful at getting the heart, lungs, and brain to come back to normal functioning, about 40% of those who died and came back remember that something happened when they were flatlined. This part of the study, which was titled Aware and was led by British intensive care doctor Sam Parnia, seems irrefutable. But very quickly, the details of something happened become controversial. We have to dive into a few details to see what the issues are. Out of the 2,060 patients who died, and the study went from 2008 to 2012 and included 33 researchers in 15 hospitals. So, out of the 2,060 patients who died, 104 were resuscitated. The first point to note is that all had actually died. They were not near death. Their hearts and lungs had stopped functioning, and within 20 to 30 seconds, their brains showed no activity. The decomposition of cells throughout the body actually takes several hours to commence afterward. During the interval between dying and being brought back is when 39% reported the memory of being conscious even though their brains had stopped. Dr. Parnia believes that this is probably just a fraction of those who had such experiences. The rest had their memories erased, either by brain inflammation, which occurs for 72 hours after a person is brought back from death, or because of drugs that are administered as part of resuscitation, which also causes memory loss. Of the 101 patients who completed the questionnaire about their experience during death, only 9% had an experience compatible with the typical going into the light model. The majority of memories were vague and unfocused, sometimes pleasant, but sometimes not. Only 2% of those who came back, which means 2 people out of 101, had the experience of full awareness or out-of-body experiences, such as looking down from above their bodies, watching and listening to the medical team as it was working to revive them. Only one person could accurately narrate what had been happening in the room in such detail that it corresponded to timed events. So what does this one person tell us about dying? It depends. Skeptics shrug off all such experiences as purely physical, claiming that if we had finer measurements of brain activity at a very subtle level, we discovered that the brain hadn't actually died. Dr. Parnia accepts that this might be true. His main focus is on how to achieve better results at resuscitation that might bring back a normal person with no organ damage, particularly brain damage after clinical death. But Dr. Parnia's personal conclusion is that a person can be fully conscious without brain function, as this one patient was. He points to the basic disagreement thousands of years ago between Aristotle and Plato. Aristotle contended that consciousness was a physical phenomenon. Plato that it was non-physical, residing in a soul that transcends the body. The Aware study didn't confirm either side. Unsurprisingly, skeptics and believers didn't change their position or their prejudices. One can say that it's a significant step to turn death into a process that can be reversed. It's also significant that awareness during death covers a wide range of experiences, not a one-size-fits-all of going into the light. What I'd like to underscore is that even when you die, you fashion the experience personally. Dr. Parnia found that people's spiritual interpretation of their death experience coincided with their own faith. They interpreted the light as being Christ, if they were Christians, which was different for Hindus and totally non-spiritual for atheists. What happens when we die then is open to interpretation. The only consensus among those who came back was that death is a comfortable process, not to be feared. Having directly experienced that, their fear of death was groundless. These people discovered a different perspective on life. Many, if not most, concluded that they should lead more selfless lives in service to others. I think it is useful that the Aware study validated that something happens. But why are we trying to settle the issue of consciousness at the most extreme moment when life and death hang in the balance? It's like trying to validate gravity by asking survivors of a plane crash about their experiences of falling from the sky. It is the normal, everyday experience of consciousness that needs to be explained, not the extreme states. I've debated or conversed with many neuroscientists, and none has been able to answer the simplest questions about consciousness. These include the following. What is a thought? How does the electrochemical activity in a neuron turn into words, sights, and sounds in our head? Why is a person's next thought totally unpredictable? If someone has a vocabulary of 30,000 words, does this mean that a clump of brain cells knows 30,000 words? If so, in what way are the words being stored? For the word cat, is there a place inside a brain cell that holds the letters C-A-T? No one can adequately answer any of these questions. My dear esteemed viewer, stick around, hit that subscribe button if you wish to have the answers to those questions, because I'm sure Mr. Deepak Chopra M.D. is going to be forthwith in providing those answers in his wonderful book, METAHUMAN, that I am sharing with you now. It's a glorious day to get the answers to be a metahuman and achieve this meta-reality.
Namaste, namaskaram.